Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm going to be taking a preview look at a prototype copy of FantasyForm from designer Lucas Gentry and publisher Buttonshy Games. This is the follow-up to the same designer's previous game, Spaceship, which also came from Buttonshy, and it's sort of a card-based adventure game with a bit of resource management and this unique sort of rotating tableau system. You'll see how it works in just a minute, but disclaimer up front, as a preview copy, obviously I was given advance sort of access to the prototype version of this game for this video, but as always I will give you my own honest opinion at the end of the video to the best of my ability. With all that said, let's head down to the table to see how this one plays, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up a game of FantasyForm, begin by placing out your starting form or your base form, the Alchemist, out onto the table. And then on top of that you will place your starting equipment, the torch card, setting it so that it shows your maximum starting hit points as 5. Next, placing the double-sided wealth card in front of me with the sort of 0 to 12 side face up. And I will be playing a standard level difficulty for this game, so I'm going to set this to a starting wealth of 8. Placing my starting companion, the guide, out onto that card to mark that starting wealth like that. Then up in the top corner, I'm going to place out this rival card. This rival card right now is not really doing anything except that after the first round, this tells me that I'm going to flip this over to the other side, and then it's going to act as a sort of tracker for the sort of timing of the game or the time limit of the game. And the rival at that point will start attacking me as well, but I'll explain all of that as we get into gameplay. I'm just going to set that up there for right now. And then finally, to set up the rest of the cards, I'm going to take the rest of these cards with the encounter side up for now, giving them a shuffle. And then with those cards, I'm going to start first by building a 3-card upgrades row over here. And since I didn't show you me putting those out on the table, that is the back side of those cards. We'll then form a 3-card encounters row over here, like that. And then finally across the top, we're going to flip the cards this way so that this side is face up. And I'm going to lay out 6 cards, placing the one remaining card down here into a discard pile. And it's worth mentioning now, I'll explain this again in better detail later, but when I reset this row and place out 6 cards, that 6 cards is also going to count any of the essences that I have in my pack on my person. So there will always be a total of 6 cards or 6 essences available during gameplay at any time. And like that, the ethereal row of essences is all set up, and this last card I'm just going to stick down here as a discard. Things might need to get moved around on screen as I get into gameplay later, but with that we are all set up for gameplay. So FantasyForm is going to play out over a series of 4 rounds, and sort of the main goal of this game is that I'm going to upgrade my basic form, the Alchemist, into some kind of elemental form. And that's because I am eventually trying to take down the rival, and I'm going to need to attack the rival. And as you can see on this card here, it says that I may not attack the rival if I have this form. So I need to find a better form, which are elementals, one of which you can see right here, I can show you quickly, is the water form. And basically, once I have an elemental form, I can use that form to do damage to the rival. And right now I can't do it anyway because there is no rival. The rival is also going to assume an elemental form at the end of this first round. So realistically, I have about 3 rounds, although I can attack during that first round after they immediately become an elemental. So I have 4 rounds to basically do enough damage to take out the rival before we run out of time. If we reach the end of 4 rounds and I haven't defeated the rival, I will lose. But also if the rival does enough damage, or the rival and sort of events that happen throughout the game do enough damage to me, I will lose before the end of that timer runs out. And on each round, we're basically going to play out a series of turns. And each of my turns is going to consist of 3 phases. And those 3 phases are basically following the 3 cards right there in the encounters row. And the way it's going to work is, and I'll show you these cards a little bit closer in just a second, but we're going to start with the Outlands encounter on the leftmost card, then the Forge encounter on the middle card. And then finally, we're going to be making use of the market prices at the bottom of this third card for the purchasing and selling of essences at the market. And why are we buying and selling things? Well, we're buying and selling things to sort of work our available money or our available wealth. And using that wealth, we can buy new companions, we can buy new items, and ultimately we can buy these elemental forms. And once I have an elemental form, also at the end of each round, I will be able to spend those shards, my wealth, in order to deal damage to the rival. So ultimately, I need to have a lot of those shards of wealth in order to do that damage that I need to in order to win the game. So rather than try and teach you everything right now, because everything you need to know right now is not what you need to know for what I'm going to do currently, if that makes sense, I'm going to sort of play the game and teach you as I play. But before I do that, I do want to point out the different sort of companions and items that are available to me, or artifacts, as they're called in this game. And I also want to show you the different kinds of essences that are available to me, as well as sort of the abilities, at least of the essences that are out there. We are missing one essence currently. Actually, I can show it to you from this card. So let me show you the different essences. Let me show you the different items that are currently available to me. I'll explain more of them as they come out later. And then I'm just going to go through the first turn, and you hopefully will see how the game plays out from that. All right, so first things first, let's take a look at the three items. So the first item I have is the Shielding Bracers. Costs me 2 shards to buy. And if I have this, it says I can reduce incoming damage by 1 by spending 2 shards, or reduce by 2 by spending 3 shards. So this is a defensive artifact. Here I've got the Magentine Hammer, which says nothing, but it's going to give me these sort of tags. And some of the events or encounters that are going to happen will be triggered both positively and negatively by the tags that I have available to me. And this again will cost 6 shards. Finally, the Mercenary, same thing. He doesn't have any ability, but he's given me a lot of different tags that potentially could help me moving forward. And he also costs 6 shards. So putting those back out like that. The 4 different essences in the game are the Shadow Essence, the Life Essence, the Radiant Essence, and down here you can see the Martial Essence. And most of the time, the only thing you're going to be paying attention to those 4 is based on the sort of cost to buy and sell at market. And I can always buy and sell as many things as I can afford, so long as they fit in my pack. And you can see here, marked on my Alchemist card, that my pack currently has a space for 2 essences in my pack. And you'll notice that the price of things is going to change. So here, the Martial Essence costs 1, but in the next turn, I can see what's going to happen is everything is going to cycle 1 space through here. This card will get discarded. This card will flip over and become available at my market to purchase. And this card here will flip down and become the first encounter over here. So I can see that on the next turn, that 1 will then be worth 3. So if I buy for 1 and sell for 3, I'll be getting 2 shards per essence that I sell. So that's the kind of thing that I need to pay attention to in order to buy and sell at the market. In addition, as I mentioned, because this is cycling, I can see that the Forge encounter on this card will become the Forge encounter in the next turn. So I can sort of see a little bit of information about what's coming up so that I can plan better for it. Now, I did say the essences have some special powers, so let me show those to you right now. The Shadow Essence says I can discard this to shuffle the ethereal row, that's my row where the essences are, into the discard, and then redeal the same number of cards back into the ethereal row. So if for some reason I don't like the stuff that's up here, I could clear all of that and redeal out the same number of cards to hopefully get a better mix of things out there. The Life Essence, I don't need to show it up close, basically just says you can discard to heal up to 3 points of damage, as a Life Essence would do. The Radiant Essence says we can discard this card to add the bottom 2 cards of the discard pile to the ethereal row. So this is giving me more time. Because what I haven't mentioned is we are playing over a series of 4 rounds. And the way that a round is going to end is when there are 0 or 1 cards left in this row at the end of my turn. And if there are 0 or 1 cards left in this row at the end of my turn, we're going to do what this says, basically advancing 1 round and allowing the rival to attack us and then allowing us then to attack the rival. Then finally, the martial essence here says that we can discard it to reduce damage dealt by an encounter or a rival activation to 0. So this is defending me completely against any attack, except that I have to then lose that potion or essence, which means that I didn't get the money back for selling it in a later turn. Finally, the last 2 things I want to show you are the companion and the artifact that I'm starting with. The torch is interesting because it says that once per turn I can look at the back of the rightmost card in the ethereal row, which means over here I can take a look at what's on the back of this, so I know both what's coming next and also what kinds of potions are going to be, or essences, are going to be worth more in future turns. And the guide actually plays really well off of that, because the guide then says once per turn I may move the rightmost card in the ethereal row to the left at the end of the ethereal row. So basically, if I look at the back of that with the torch and I don't like what it is, I can slide that all the way back over there, which would be very cool to do if it's something really bad that I'm not prepared for. So that's basically it to start. The only other thing I really need to explain to you are what's happening along the way, but I'll just sort of read and do what it says. Also, the boss that's coming out or the rival that's coming out, I'll explain how they work as soon as that happens at the end of our first round. So starting over here with the Outlands encounter, it says, Crystal Vipers shed their highly valued and delicate skin. Gain 1 shard for every empty space in your pack, unless you have water. I don't have any water available to me. It means no tags of water. Let me show you what that looks like a little bit up close, in case you can't see from far away. This water tag I don't have, so I don't deny whatever this says, which is great, because I do have 2 empty spaces, so I am starting the first round of the game by simply getting 2 shards up to 10. Next, the Forge encounter says, Raiders carrying elemental bane weapons strike without warning. Take 1 damage, or 2 if you have an elemental form. Well, good news is I don't have an elemental form, at least for now is good news, because that means I can't attack without it, but right now it means I'm only taking 1 damage instead of 2, so this goes down to 4 damage, and we move to the market. Now, looking at the market, Shadow is costing 5, Radiant costs 7, Life costs 5, and Martial costs 1. And this is really annoying because all my Martial right now is down in here. The only things up here are going to cost 5, 7, or 5. And I can see in the next round that Shadow goes from 5 to 2, the Radiant goes from 7 to 10, and Healing goes from 5 to 6. So Radiant's increasing by 3, which actually isn't bad. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to buy 1 Radiant. So I go down to 3. I take this Radiant Essence and put it into my pack, which basically just means now that this is a shorter row. And then that is the end of the turn unless I want to buy something. The only thing I can afford right now is the shield. But having the torch and the guide right now, until I upgrade things to other reasons, is actually a pretty good thing to do, because I'm going to use the torch and look at the other side of this. Whoops. And it says that I'm going to gain 2 shards unless I have water. So I want to make sure I don't have water. That's fine. I don't. And that's a good thing to do again. And I can see here it says take 2 damage unless you have fire. I do have fire for the torch, so I don't want to replace the torch right now anyway. So we're going to pause there. And that's the end of the turn. This flips down to the discard pile. Those slide over. This flips over like that. Slide over, flip down. And we're ready for the next turn. Next turn, Outlands encounter says, a rock slide barely misses you, revealing a valuable treasure. Gain 2 shards unless you have water. I don't have water, so I get 2 shards, back to 5. Next, Forge encounter, a ravenous troll wakes up from a long hibernation. Take 2 damage unless you have fire. Thank you, Torch, I do have fire. Let's keep that there. Then my market prices. Shadow just got super cheap. And I see that it's 5 next time, which is great. I'm definitely selling the Radiant Essence. And when you sell, you just place it at the end of the row like that. So I get 10 back, which means I'm going to flip this and go up to 15. Now it's worth mentioning that if I want to get one of these elemental forms, they're going to generally be 20 shards to buy. So I could push myself to get there, but also I might want to start using some things to buy some things like this hammer. Could be nice to have. And I can also see in the next encounter I'm going to lose an essence unless I have ranged weapon, and this Magentine hammer is a ranged weapon, so I might do that. But let me look at shards too. Shadow Essence is only 2, and it's going to sell for 5 next turn, so I definitely want to do that. So we're going to 13 to take that Shadow Essence. And then I will buy that for 6, going down to 7. So we are at 7 like that. Taking this hammer and replacing that. Hold on. Before I buy the hammer, I want to look at what this is. It says, Outlands encounter, gain a shard plus 1 more for each essence in my pack. Okay, I like that. That's not negative. In fact, it could be a good idea to buy another essence just because then I'll get more stuff, and life is going from 6 to 7, so that's not a bad idea. Okay, hold on. So I'm taking that, I'm replacing the torch there. I am at 3 health. No, sorry, 4 health. That was a 1 damage I took. Then, yeah, I'm gonna, now that I know that that's there, and I don't want to take that one because then it won't be there, but I'm gonna buy this life essence for 6. Because I do have space for it. So I'm down to 1. That's the end of the turn. This gets discarded. This gets flipped. This flips down. Like that. We still have more than 1. There's 2 here, so we're still continuing. Then, here. A monolith shimmers as you approach, then suddenly fades. Gain 1 shard plus 1 more for each essence. I have 2 essences, so I'm gaining 3 shards. 1, 2, 3. Going to 4. Forge encounter, a mindless shambler lurches from the waste, slowly pursuing travelers. Lose an essence unless you have ranged attack. I do have the ranged attack tag right here, so nothing happens. So now we're selling things. Shadow and life. Shadow's worth 5, life is worth 7, and I can see in the next 2 turns at least that doesn't get any better. Do I care which one gets up there first? Not really. So I'm just going to do Shadow for 5, puts me to 9, and then life for 7 gets me up to 16. Like that. Now I don't have enough money to buy the fire elemental form yet. I need 4 more. And unfortunately, I could buy the Radiant Essence and wait 2 turns, but that's going to go 9 to 12 is only 3. I can't look at this anymore because I don't have the torch. Yeah, but you know what? I might do it anyway. What's next? You may spend up to 3 shards to heal damage. I don't really need to heal yet. And I don't know what the Outlands is going to bring me. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it. I am buying this Radiant Essence for 9. Puts me back to 7. Discarding like that. That flips over. Those slide out. This flips down. We still have 2 cards left, so I'm okay. But I can't buy anything else or that's going to be the end of the turn, and I do want to sell this for 12. Okay, then, Outlands encounter. A massive lockbox is immovable, but not unbreakable. Gain the least expensive essence if you have a hammer or a sword, which means crushing or piercing. I do have crushing with my hammer. So I get the least expensive essence right now is the Shadow Essence. And I'm going to instantly sell it back again. Well, I can't yet, but I will. I gain the Shadow Essence. Then, Forge encounter, an itinerant cleric offers to heal your wounds. You may spend up to 3 shards to heal damage equal to the number of shards you spent. Actually, now that I see this, 3 plus 12 is going to be 15. I have extra shards for my form, so I'm going to actually do that. Spend 1 to heal 1 back to 5. But no, that's going to be silly No, that's silly because I'm going to buy a form, and when you buy a form, you reset the full health anyway. So I don't need to do that. Market prices. Selling back the shadow for 3 puts me to 10. And then, oh no, I'm holding the radiant till next turn. Slow down. End of the turn, slide these down, flip this one over. Wow, I got lots of choices for elements. We still have 2, so we're good. This comes down. And now let's hope we don't get crushed by the encounters. Outlands encounter. Strangely, the outlands are peaceful and calm. Travelers venture forth. You may hire an available companion for 2 shards fewer than their listed cost. We don't have any companions available to us. Only elemental forms, so that's useless. Forge encounter. A stinging dust cloud stirs up as you come in from the outlands. Take 1 damage unless you have water. I don't have water. So I'm taking a damage. I'm down to 3. But that's okay because now I get to potentially, well, not yet. First, I need to sell my Radiant Essence to get 12, so I'm up to 22. Like that. And now I am going to buy an elemental form. So I've got 3 different elemental forms available to me. Earth, air, and fire. You'll see already that Earth has 7 hit points, whereas air and fire both have 5. And then they have some abilities. Also, the pack sizes, Earth only holds 2 essences, but air and fire can both hold 3 essences, which is an upgrade from my normal form. Earth doesn't give me any powers. He gets the Earth stamp, and he gets the smash or crushing tag, which I already have from my hammer. No special powers, but 7 points of health, which is cool. Air gets me an air tag, 3 space, 5 hit points, and it also says gain 1 shard for each point of damage you take from your rival. So every time this guy hits me, I'm going to gain shards, which would be very helpful. Fire. Remember, there was that card that I needed fire to avoid damage, and I don't have the torch anymore. Fire gives me 3 space, 5 health, and it says if my rival has earth, then I can attack them for 1 shard less than normal, which could happen. The problem is, I don't know what's going to happen yet. And gaining extra shards for getting hit sounds like not a bad thing to have. So I'm going to take that air form. Hold on. Am I? If I do that, I'm down to 2 shards. And I don't know if I want to do that. I'm actually going to pass. I'm actually going to wait because I want to see what happens to them first. Because I'm not going to have enough shards to do anything anyway. So yeah, no, I'm passing. So then fire goes there. Those slide over. This flips. We still have 2 cards, so we're still going. That flips down. And that's a shame because I wanted to buy that. And I should have bought it sooner, but I didn't. Okay. Outlands encounter. Outlaws waylay as you cross the outlands. Lose 1 essence of your choice unless you have a weapon. I do have a weapon, but I don't have any essences to lose anyway. Forge encounter. You fail to notice the hole developing in your pack until it's too late. If you have more than 1 essence in your pack, lose 1. Again, I don't have 1, so yay. Market prices are bad for Radiant Essence because that's 11. I'm not spending 11, so I will stop there. I could buy a healer, which says at the start of any turn, you may pay 1 shard to heal 1 point of damage. I'm a little bit worried that the bad guy's going to hit me a bunch. And I kind of wondered if I should take that air just so I can. But I'm worried that, yeah, he's going to damage me anyway. I'll take some shards. Yeah, that was silly. I shouldn't have wasted the round, but that's okay. I'm going to 2. And if this fails me, then it fails me. But I'm going to 2. And I am upgrading from the alchemist to air. So I reset back to 5. I can now hit the rival, but I don't have shards to do it anyway. This is down to 1 card, means we are going to reset for the next round. All right, so to change for the next round, we're going to flip this card. And then it says discard all of these cards. And search through the discard pile until I find the first ethereal form, or the first, elemental form for the rival. Now, I kind of think it's a little bit vague about how I'm supposed to search through this, so I am going to give it a shuffle just so it makes it a little bit more random. And realistically, it doesn't matter which which elemental form the rival gets. So we'll do it that way, and we'll flip through. Oh, okay. That's not good, because that's a tough rival, because he starts with 7 health. I gotta hit him 7, not 5, which is sad. Now I wish I did have that fire, because I could do more damage, but that's okay. But what this means is the rival now also has an ability that says, take 2 damage, or 1 if my rival has 5 or fewer health. So right now, while he's at full strength, I'm taking 2 damage every turn rather than 1, until I can knock him down a few pegs. And since that was the first round, all we are doing then is resetting, because the rival isn't doing anything this turn to me. I basically get a free turn to figure out what's coming. So I'm going to give these a shuffle again, and I'm going to lay out the same way I did before, putting out the upgrades 3 cards here, putting out my events 3 cards here, and then setting up my ethereal row with 6 cards. I don't have any cards in my pack, so there will be 6 cards up there, and then anything else left goes into the discard. All right, so here we are all set up for the next round, and you will see again we don't have any martial essence up there. I don't need anything to heal right now. So we're just going to go through the encounters, starting here. Outland's encounter. A massive lockbox is immovable but not unbreakable. Gain the least expensive essence if you have. I do. I still have that crushing hammer. Least expensive right now looks to be Shadow, which is 2 shards. Like that. Next, Forge encounter. A salve tree is blooming today. Heal 1 point of damage unless you have fire and burn down the tree. I don't have fire, but I also don't need to heal, which means that's sad. And then finally we go into our sales or market phase. Now, this is a little bit sad because I did get this. It's only worth 2, so I could sell it back for 2. It's worth 3 next round, which could be good, but my market in general is bad. Because life is 4 next and then 4 again. I'm going to just basically be floating by as we go. But let's see what happens then. We discard this. Hold on. Take 1 damage unless I have water. I don't have water, but there's no way for me to get water. So that's fine. I'm taking a damage. All right, that goes there. These come. This flips. Those slide. This flips. And we've got good news. Life is going up to 8 in a couple turns. So I should buy some life and hold on to them. Except that we're going to start losing cards if we do that too long. But anyway, okay. Outland's encounter. Strangely, the Outlands are peaceful and calm. Travelers venture forth. You may hire an available companion for 2 fewer shards than the listed cost. So I could get the mercenary for 4. But I don't have 4. So that's not going to happen. And I don't really need him except for his tags, because that's all he's got. And I've already got weapon and I've already got crushing. The only thing he would add then is piercing and slashing, which I don't necessarily need. So I'm not too worried about him. Next, this is that one I said before. A stinging dust cloud stirs up as you come in from the Outlands. Take a damage unless you have water. I don't, so I am going to take that damage to go to 4. Market. I am going to then sell my Shadow Essence back for 3, so I'm up to 5. I don't need my torch back. And I don't really need the sword. The sword is going to heal 2 damage every time I damage the rival, which is nice because it keeps me healed while I'm fighting. But I don't really want to get rid of my hammer. Do I? I lose range and I lose crushing, but I still get the weapon and I now pick up a slashing and the healing. But 5 relics is big. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Now, I wanted to buy both of these, except that I see my next Forge encounter says, if I have more than 1 essence in my pack, I'm going to lose 1. So it's pointless to buy more than 1. But also, the next round is the same price. And there might be something that says I get stuff for having an empty pack. So let's not do anything. That gets discarded. Those slide over. This one flips. Again, over this one flips down. That's bad. Now I wish I had done. Really? All right, well, it says, inexperienced highwaymen set up a toll blockade near a recent rockfall. Pay 2 shards unless you have a leaf. I don't have earth. He is earth. So I am going to pay 2 shards. It means I go down to 3, which is pretty stinky. You fail to notice the hole developing on your pack. Lose an essence if you have 1. I don't have, so we move to the market. Problem here is that the life essence is 4 and I now have 3. So I can't get that 4 up, but the shadow is 2. The shadow is 2. And it's going to be 3 and it could be even more later. So you know what? I'm going to spend my 2 to take a shadow. That's the end of the turn. That goes there. These slide over. This flips over. Flips down. Alan's Encounter. Restorative spring bubbles with otherworldly heat. Gain 2 shards if at full health. I'm not. Otherwise heal 1 damage. Okay. Forge Encounter. A rejuvenating wind blows across the outlands, carrying the sounds of distant battle. Gain 1 available martial essence or heal 1 point of damage. There is no martial essence. I cannot heal. That's sad. All right, then I'm not selling this because it's still only worth 2. This gets trashed. This slides over. This flips. This flips down. Alan's Encounter. Blood moles burrow up from the ground, drawn to powerful energies. Take 3 damage if you have 12 or more shards. I don't, so yay. Forge Encounter. Raiders carrying elemental bane weapons strike without warning. Take 1 damage or 2 if you have an elemental form. All right, so I'm taking 2 damage. Ouch. The question is, do I sell this or do I hold on for later? I need the shards. I'm selling that for 3. 1, 2, 3 puts me up to 4 shards. Yes. I'm a little bit scared though. Oh, but I'm getting lots of shards for that. So yeah, I want that to keep going. Cool. Flip that. Just don't damage me, because if I damage, then the boss might kill me. Oh, this is great too. Okay, Alan's Encounter. A monolith shimmers as you approach, then suddenly fades. Gain 1 shard plus 1 more for each essence in my pack. I don't have any, but I'll get a shard. Then, Hopeful Scholars pay you for your secrets. Gain 1 shard for each point of damage you are below full health. So I am 2 below full health, so I will get 2 shards. I'm up to 7. Cool. Then I can buy and sell. I could buy that for 2, which would put me at 5. Yeah, why not? I think 2 is the cheapest it gets. I'm going to buy that for 2. Then that is the end because there's nothing left. So we are then going to discard all of these cards. Then the rival attacks me. Says I take 2 damage or 1 if they have 5 or less health. They don't have 5 or less health, so I'm taking 2 damage. Ouch, ouch. I'm down to 1 health, which is dangerous. But also, my air elemental says gain 1 shard for each point of damage you take from your rival. So I get 2 shards back. And then I can attack the rival by spending 4 shards to deal 1 damage every time I pay. So I am going to do that once, going down to 3, hitting them down to 6. That's the end of this round, which means this is going to rotate now to 3. So shuffling and resetting, we have 2 more rounds to hopefully take out this elemental. Means I need lots of shards. Resetting the tableau, and we are ready for the next round. And having the shadow essence is useless because it's 2, 2, 2 every time. But let's see what happens in the encounter. A massive lockbox is immovable but not unbreakable. Gain the least expensive essence if I have crushing. I do. Least expensive right now is shadow. I don't really care which shadow I take. I will take that one. Then, Forge Encounter. Raiders carrying elemental bane weapons strike without warning. Take 1 damage or 2 if you have an elemental form. Ha 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 ha. Hey guys, guess what? We lost. That is the end of the game. Yeah, I think that's good enough to show you how the game plays out. There's no real reason for me to do better because I don't often do all that well in this game anyway. So that is the game. While I'm down here, this is prototype copy of the game. So all of the card quality that you see is prototype quality. You'll also see, for example, on this artifact card, or alchemist card, it says art coming soon. That means that some of the stuff will likely change here, so I can't really talk too much except that. Let me just go ahead and flip these over and show you all of the things because I love the look of this game. I have to say that I really do like how this game looks. Again, this one is likely going to be upgraded too because it's kind of a bland just color card right now. But let me just show you up close the art in this game. Here's the water elemental, fire elemental, just gorgeous, gorgeous fantasy art. Torch, seeker satchel. This one prevents me from losing essences from my bag. Sort of siphoning, the healer, the guild loan. This one's kind of cool. You gain shards when you buy this for free, but then when you're purchasing an artifact to get rid of this, it costs 5 additional. So you're kind of borrowing money for later. The alchemist are coming soon. Bandit, the shielding bracers, air, the magentine hammer, the healer's kit, the mercenary, the earth elemental, and finally the original guide. But also, flipping that over just for a second, the 4 different essences here, I also just love the design of those bottles. Very clear, very obvious. The bottles are all different shaped. The symbols on them are all different shaped. Now, again, this is prototype, so things might change along the way. But in general, I'm a big fan of how everything looks in this game quite a bit. Taking a look now at the wallet up there. This one is a little bit of a mixed bag for me because it is a little bit bland. It is just a brown wallet with the name. Although I do have to say I do like the styling of the name. The font is cool. I like how these sort of arrows are used as a framing for the words on the wallet. And I do understand that a sort of brown leather wallet does fit thematically with the sort of fantasy adventure party kind of theme. But there are lots of wallets in the Button Shy series that I do really love, and this one's not one of those, but it's not ugly or bad by any means. It's just a little bit underwhelming for me. Again, does it matter? No, not at all, but I always do comment on that in my Button Shy videos. So that's basically it for the components. Meet me back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the game itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. It didn't go so well for me in the end, but that's kind of how this game tends to go for me. But we'll get into that in just a minute. This game is going to be a bit of an interesting one for me because Spaceship, the predecessor to this game from the same designer, is actually one of the very first Button Shy games that I ever played. At the beginning of the pandemic is right around the time that I discovered Button Shy. I was trapped at home, teaching from home, looking for something to do at night to sort of wind down after a long day of work. And I discovered Button Shy particularly because of the sort of board game of the month club that they had, or still have, and more specifically the print and play version or the digital version of that. And I was downloading a bunch of their games and printing them out at home, and Spaceship is one of those games that I played very early on. And when I first sat down with Spaceship, the whole system, the whole idea of the way that the cards rotate and this flips to become this and flips to become this, and this really interesting sort of resource market manipulation kind of game with interesting events that are triggering that sort of gave this real adventure style feel to it. And I was really enjoying this system. And then for whatever reason, I put that away and moved on, and many months and years later, I came back to the actual physical copy of the game because I remembered enjoying it as much as I did at the beginning of the pandemic. And I sat down and I took it out to play, planning that I would probably eventually make a video for that game because I do make videos for most of the solo Button Shy games. But the more I took it out and the more I played it, it ended up just feeling like work. It was a lot of work to continuously be rotating this system through over and over again. The events that were hitting me felt fairly random. I just wasn't really understanding the system, and for whatever reason, whatever that fun spark was that I found way back when just wasn't there, and I ended up not covering the video or covering the game because I knew a lot of people really liked it, and I didn't want to just get on camera and say, I don't like this game, sorry, kind of a review. So I didn't. And then I heard this one was coming out, and I saw pictures, and first off, the artwork is gorgeous, and I like jumped at the fact that, okay, here's a sort of reiteration of the spaceship concept. I really was a fan of the sort of cleverness of the design of the system of the original game. The artwork here looks amazing. There's designers basically been given a chance to go in and tweak things and improve things and make sort of a better 2.0 of Spaceship. Basically, I mean, it's a different game. There are changes for sure. But basically, this was the designer's chance to reiterate and sort of make the next step in this system. So I was very interested, even though the original didn't really connect for me, to try out this version of the game or this new game based off the old system. And I have to say, I'm of mixed minds now that I have. The first thing, let's start with the good. The good news is that I enjoyed this one quite a bit more than Spaceship. And let me start with sort of what I enjoy in general and then what I enjoy more compared to Spaceship. But first off, I said before that this rotational mechanism was a very interesting idea, and it still is to me, because it definitely tells a story of some kind. As you're going through this rotating tableau of cards, you know that the cards that you have will not be part of that rotation. So you've sort of pulled things out that can go and can't go through there. And this may end up coming back to be part of what I don't like about the game as well. But the idea, the concept, the physicality of how this game moves is very interesting to me. It's a very clever use of cards, a small number of cards, to do a whole lot of stuff. And I think that's really, really cool. The market system with sort of how you buy cards, hold on to them, and wait until later in the game to sell them back at a different price is very interesting to me because two things. Number one, it's fun to sort of pay attention and speculate on the costs of or prices of these items so that you can buy low and sell high and make as much money as possible. There's a little bit of a risk-reward balancing aspect to that. There's also this idea of if I hold off the cards that are low and let the cards that are high price stay in there, if I pay enough attention, that there's this sort of speculation, prediction kind of aspect to it. It's very clever and it's very interesting, and more than that, if you play this more, you start to remember some of the events that trigger off of having things in your pack and not having things in your pack, and when it's good to hold and when it's not good to hold, and so on. And that's a very interesting, very fun system or aspect to the mechanisms in this game. So then, those were in the original game as well. So why does this work better for me? First off, the thing that I didn't like about the original game so much was that this thing was just constantly rotating and rotating and rotating and rotating until something happened and the game ended. This time they've sort of added in rounds to the game. You keep going until this, and then we pause for a minute, some stuff happens, we reset, and we do the same thing, which means that this sort of river of cards that's constantly flipping and rotating and flipping and rolling and flipping and rotating shrinks a little bit and also doesn't just continue to move. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller and eventually stops until you reset. And that felt a little less fiddly to me. It felt a little bit more comfortable to me. It just felt better for whatever reason. But more importantly, a lot of the upgrades that have happened here are thematically the changes and also sort of the end game goal. In the previous game, you were trying to collect these crystals and fighting against the boss who was also trying to collect these crystals. And basically, you were saving money until you could buy these crystals, and then once you did, you won, or they did, and you lost. This time, there's some added variability because you're trying to defeat the rival. But the rival is not the same every time because the rival is sort of randomly decided by whichever of those elemental forms gets assigned to it. Likewise, your power every game is going to change slightly based on the elemental form that you've chosen. And often, how those elemental forms interact with each other, or how the elemental forms interact with the different companions and artifacts that you have in your employ or in your available inventory to be used against the rival, changes things up. So first off, the endgame goal of sort of defeating the enemy is more interesting to me. Yes, it sort of works the same way because the way you're doing damage is by spending money just like it was to buy the crystals in the previous game. but it adds a more, I don't know, for me it adds a stronger focus, particularly because of the ways that the cards interact and how different things attack different things, and how you're defending and attacking versus more sort of resource management style goals. And I like that better here. Also, the variability of which elemental forms come out when, who gets this element, who gets that element, how they interact, and so on, adds another level of information, or adds another level of variable interest to me in the game that I appreciate as well. So definitely those two changes, sort of the round-based structure and the variability of the elemental forms, definitely brought this up one level for me. Now, ultimately, it's still not my favorite game, and there's a couple reasons why. Number one is I'm just not good at it. And I suspect that in order to be good at this game, you kind of have to play a bunch and start to pay attention to which cards have which information on the front and the back. Now, I don't know if that's true, because remember, the torch at the beginning, the item you have, allows you to look at the back of a card. And the only reason that item is there is because I guess it would assume that you don't know what's on the back of that card. So maybe it's not that I'm supposed to be remembering, but more that I'm supposed to be using that torch more wisely so I can pay attention to things and so I can start to remember what's on the back of the smaller grouping of cards that's in the game. But the point of this is, if I know what's on the front and the back of cards, I can start to pay more attention to this item means this is the cost of that essence. And this item means this is the cost of that essence. So if I know that I need lots of that essence to be worth a lot of money, then I can make sure that I hold off the low card. And if I want that card to be low money, I can hold off the card that keeps it from being expensive. So there's a little bit of sort of memorization or remembering things that you've seen before so that it makes sense as it goes through. And I don't do well with that kind of thing. I don't do well with super long-term strategic planning, and this game sort of hits me hard tactically because there's a lot of randomness in the events that are coming out. You've got these events that come through in the flow, 2 events per round or 2 encounters per round, and sometimes the encounters are just you take damage, or you lose shards, or you lose an essence, and there's not much you can do against it unless you've built up stuff in your inventory to protect against it, right? If you've got an item that blocks, if you have a life essence that can heal yourself. And it just could be that the way that I play games doesn't connect well with this idea of long-term strategy and sort of reactionary preparation for that long-term strategy. And for whatever reason, I just don't connect with that kind of thinking pattern. So to me, it always ends up feeling somewhat more random than it should, I think. Sometimes I do very well, sometimes I don't do very well, and it's mostly based on how the cards are coming out and how my turn-by-turn tactical decisions work with the flow of cards that I'm receiving. And if that doesn't mesh together, then I just don't do that well, and that's unfortunate, but that's the nature of the game, and for me, it just doesn't work all that well. I'd much rather play this than Spaceship because of the things that I mentioned, and I do think there's still a very clever game in here. If this long-term planning, risk management, resource management kind of thing is something you might be interested in, this is still a very clever design. There's some very clever thoughts that went into the design of the mechanism and how all of these sort of gears interact with each other, and I appreciate that. And definitely, if this is a game that hits off like Spaceship does and gets a bunch more expansions with more content, different abilities, different artifacts, different encounters, that kind of variability will only continue to make this game even better for those who really do enjoy a game like this. So again, if this does seem like something that might interest you, as this video goes live, it's sort of mid-campaign right now, there's a link down below in the comments that you can use to go to the campaign to check it out for yourself. As always, I hope that this video was helpful. If you did enjoy this video, I do ask, as always, that you like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.